Hello, ladies. This is chapter 1 of You Can Do It. That's the chapter 1, You Can Do It, from Mary Kay Ash, Miracles Happen. I hope you'll join me on this weekly book study of Miracles Happen. So I'm going to read each chapter, and I hope it blesses you like it has me. So there are 4 kinds of people in this world. Those who make things happen, those who watch things happen, those who wonder what happened, those who don't know that anything happened. I knew from a very early age that I wanted to be first on that list. And in years since, I have learned that people who do succeed are set apart by their personalities, objectives, and abilities. Specifically, this means that they have enthusiasm with purpose, discipline, willingness to work, serve, and to learn, determination, appreciation of others. I said that I learned this lesson. I did not say that it came easily or dropped into my lap. When I was 7 years old, my daddy came home from the sanatorium, and although 3 years treatment had arrested his tuberculosis, he was not completely cured. During the rest of my childhood, he remained an invalid and in need of a great deal of tender, loving care. For all those years, my mother was the sole support for our family. She had been trained as a nurse, but eventually found work as a manager of a restaurant in Houston. The job didn't pay as well as such jobs do today, and the salary was undoubtedly lower because she was a woman. Mother worked 14 hours a day, leaving home each morning at 5 before I awoke and returning at 9 at night, often after I was asleep. My older brother and sister were grown and gone, so it became my responsibility to take care of my daddy. It never occurred to me the things that should be different. I would come home from school and clean the house. I would do my homework, but I accepted this, and what's more, I enjoyed it. Even though some of my duties were supposed to be too difficult for a child, nobody ever told me that. As a result, I just did them. Still, preparing meals was often a great challenge. My mother was a marvelous cook, but the job became mine when she couldn't be home in time to make our family dinner. At the tender age of 7, I could hardly be considered a master chef. Remember, there were no such things as frozen dinners or fast food carryouts. If Daddy wanted chili or chicken for dinner, and I didn't know how to cook it, I would call my mother. During those days, I rarely had the opportunity to learn anything from her in person, and she just couldn't be there to teach me. But how often I have said since then, thank God for the telephone. It became my lifeline and my primary contact with my mother. Whenever I called her, she found a way to make time for me and patiently explain what I had to do. Mother, hi, Daddy wants potato soup tonight. Potato soup? Okay, honey, first get out the big pot, the one you used yesterday, then take 2 potatoes. She'd go through every step, one at a time, trying to think of everything I needed to know. I hadn't been raised to be a complainer, but I'm sure she knew that my job sometimes seems overwhelming. Because when she was through with her instructions, she always added, honey, you can do it. Our family situation meant that I had to do many things that most children weren't expected to do. For instance, if I needed new clothing, I had to go by myself to downtown Houston. I took those Saturday trips alone because my best friend was not allowed to travel on the streetcar without an adult. After all, we were just 7 years old. Don't forget, these were the days when a little girl's dress was 69 cents and eggs were 19 cents a dozen. My mother would give me perhaps $1.50 and I would go pick out a dress or blouse. I loved doing this. It was the highlight of my week, and the only problem I had was convincing the clerks that I was really allowed to make such decisions. Sometimes it was enough to show them the money, but often they would demand, "Where's your mother?" Then I would explain our circumstances, give them the phone number for Mother's restaurant, and tell them, "You can call her, she'll tell you it's okay." After shopping, I got to go to Cress's for a pimento cheese sandwich on toast and a Coke. Then I'd go to a movie. I lived for these afternoons on the town. I think the meal was usually 20 cents and the show was a dime, so for 30 cents I had a wow of an afternoon. When I first began these excursions, I was a little nervous about catching the right streetcar and finding my way around. Then I remembered my mother saying, "You can do it." Honey, I have heard those words 1,000 times, and she always said them with total conviction. Now I realize that she must have been very anxious about the responsibilities I had to assume, but you would never have known it to hear her. As far as I was concerned, my mother knew I could do it. Her words became the theme of my childhood. They have stayed with me all my life. You can do it. The confidence my mother instilled has served me throughout my adult life. Without it, Mary Kay Cosmetics might have fizzled before it even began. It was 1963. After 25 years as a professional saleswoman with my children grown, I just decided that retirement did not suit me. And so I had developed a strategy and philosophy for beginning my own dream company. I had recruited several salespeople and invested my life savings into the chance of a lifetime. Using my years of experience in direct sales, I was going to train and supervise the beauty consultants, while my husband was going to handle the administrative details of our new business. We had assembled boxes of bottles and jars and brand new labels that read, Beauty by Mary Kay. Of course, this was later changed to Mary Kay Cosmetics. Exactly 1 month before we were scheduled to open, my husband and I were having breakfast together. He was reading the final percentage figures for our company, and I was listening very much, as a wife often does when her husband talks about the budget, with half an ear, because I considered it to be his problem. At that moment, he suffered a fatal heart attack. I believe that work is often the best antidote for grief, and so, despite my shock, I decided to open the business as planned. Starting the company had been my dream and my idea, but I had never imagined that I would run it alone. I knew that I didn't have the needed administrative skills, and yet, at this point, all the merchandise, bottles, and labels were useless if the company folded. I had to go on. I turned to both my attorney and my accountant for advice. Mary Kay, my attorney said, shaking his head, liquidate the business right now and recoup whatever cash you can. If you don't, you'll end up penniless. I had hoped that my accountant would be a little more encouraging, but after studying the situation, he said, you can't possibly do it. This commission schedule will never work. It's just a matter of time before the company goes bankrupt and you along with it. The day of my husband's funeral, my sons and daughter came to Dallas from Houston. Perhaps it was the worst possible time to make a business decision, but it could no longer be delayed. After the funeral, we sat in my living room and discussed the recommendations I had received. My children listened in silence. My 20-year-old son, Richard, was a sales representative for Prudential Life Insurance Company, one of the youngest agents in Texas, and he was making the incredible salary of $480 a month. I thought that was just unbelievable. After all, he was just a kid. If Mary Kay were to become a reality, I needed his help, but there was no way I could afford a salary like that. I took a deep breath and offered him $250 a month to help me guide the new company. Richard accepted without hesitation, and over the horrified protests of other family members and friends, he immediately quit his job and moved to Dallas. My elder son, Ben, was 27 years old, married and a father of 2. He could not pull up roots and move as quickly as his brother, but after hearing my plans to continue the company, he said, one day, I'd like to join you and Richard. Then calmly and deliberately, he reached into his breast pocket and pulled out a savings passbook. The balance showed $4,500, a sum I knew represented everything he had saved since high school. Mother, he said, I think you could do anything in this world that you wanted to. Then he handed me the passbook. Here's my savings. If it will help you in any way, I want you to have it. 8 months later, when we needed someone to handle our expanding warehouse, Ben left his job with a Houston welding company and moved his family to Dallas. At that time, he gave up a salary of $750 a month and started with the company at the same pay as Richard, $250 a month. And still later, my daughter Marilyn joined us and became the first Mary Kay director in Houston. On Friday, September the 13th, 1963, 1 month after the funeral, Mary Kay Cosmetics opened on schedule with myself, 9 salespeople, and my 20-year-old son as financial administrator. How did I know that I could do it? Well, I didn't. I had no crystal ball. All I knew was that I had to do it. As for the predictions of my attorney and accountant, I figured they didn't have any crystal balls either. Besides, they didn't understand the business the way I did. I also knew that I would never have a second chance to put my dream into action. If Mary Kay Cosmetics failed, I wasn't going back into an easy retirement. I'd be broke. And that meant I'd have to work for someone else for the rest of my life. That's a very strong incentive. So no matter what anyone thought, I would not give up my dream. My children had said, "You can do it," and that was all I needed. Of course, my children had grown up believing their mother could do just about anything. I had been virtually their sole emotional and financial support from the day of their birth to the day they were grown and on their own. They had watched me get up at 5 every morning to catch up on my work, get them off to school, and then go out to earn our living in sales. They knew I was always there from the time they got home until after dinner when I left again to work. Over the years, the family had moved into nicer houses and better neighborhoods, and my children knew that I had somehow managed that. Richard and Ben knew what my advisors had said, and yet they had given their unqualified support. I never needed that kind of support more desperately than I did on the day of that funeral. It reassured me and filled me with new confidence. "Mother," Richard had gently said as he put his arm around my shoulders, "Ben and I have talked about this. All our lives we've watched you make success out of everything you've done. If you could be successful working for someone else, we know you can do even better working for yourself. It's just possible that at the time the boys had a little more confidence in Mary Kay dream than Mary Kay did. I knew my way around in direct sales, and I knew the ideas I had built into my company were good and just. But a company administered by a 20-year-old boy? Only yesterday, Richard had been a teenager wanting nothing more than a motorcycle. Yes, he'd been a good student, but help me successfully operate a business? I honestly couldn't see Richard replacing my late husband in that role. I told myself, it will be a miracle. But I had mistrusted God. I should have known that when God closes a door, he always opens a window. I might not have realized how much ability Richard had, but God did. He had prepared Richard and placed him in a position to help me build our company. 5 years after we opened, Richard was given the Man of the Year award by the American Marketing Association. At that time, he was the youngest man to ever receive that honor. Later, when Mary Kay Cosmetics became a public corporation, Richard was one of the youngest people ever to be president of a company listed on the New York Stock Exchange. From the very beginning, Richard was a godsend. He ran all administrative aspects of our business, from manufacturing to marketing, leaving me free to spend my full time and energies on directing and motivating the sales organization. We were quite a team, and still are. I depend on his financial expertise more and more each day. In fact, he even balances my personal checkbook. Even with the vital support of my sons, many others were telling me that my dream would never work. All the odds seemed against us, but memories of my mother's belief in me kept running through my mind. Whenever the task seemed impossible, I would simply repeat those words she had instilled in me for all those years. "You can do it, Mary Kay. You can do it." Still, I'm not certain that any person can take total credit for the success of my dream. A friend of mine once said Mary Kay Cosmetics was a divine accident looking for a place to happen. And I think that is correct. In 1963, the social forces that now support the financial and legal equality of women had not gained public favor, and yet there was a company that would give women all the opportunities I never had. I don't think God wanted a world in which a woman would have to work 14 hours a day to support her family as my mother had done. I believe he used this company as a vehicle to give women a chance. And I feel very humble and very fortunate to have had a part in showing other women the way. "You can do it" is an everyday motto at Mary Kay Cosmetics, and so often a woman will join us who is in desperate need of hearing this message. Frequently, she is a homemaker who's been out of the job market for years. Perhaps she never worked outside of the home, and now because of divorce or widowhood, she finds herself seeking a career. Maybe she worked long and hard in another field, never having heard those words of encouragement. For whatever the reason, she often needs to build her feelings of self-esteem and worth. Obviously, she must first be told, "You can do it." But we can't stop there, and we don't. The basic philosophies upon which our company is founded assure this woman that she will be carefully guided along every step of her professional development, following the golden rule. Every consultant and director will gladly share experience and enthusiasm until she reaches her full potential. And as she becomes more efficient at setting and meeting career goals, she will become more confident in every way. That's why if you ask a Mary Kay consultant about her career, she will probably tell you that it has become a way of life and it's not just earning money. Of course, we don't take credit for her success. When a shy or inexperienced consultant evolves into a top sales professional, she's the one who did it. All we did was provide some needed guidance and encouragement. You see, her talent was always there. She just may not have been aware of it. Sadly, most people live and die with their music still unplayed. They never dare to try. Why? Because they lack self-confidence. Women especially have so much potential they never tap. For example, Grandma Moses didn't begin painting until she was 78 years old. When asked why, she said she had never tried. And yet, in only 4 years, her works were exhibited at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. I can't help but wonder how much more the world would have seen of her beautiful art if she had only started earlier. For me, seeing so many women grow and develop has been the most meaningful accomplishment of Mary Kay Cosmetics. Everyone benefits when we all pass on the "you can do it" spirit. Often we meet a woman when she's like a tight little rosebud, full of potential, never revealed. After a few months of praise and encouragement, she blossoms into a beautiful rose, poised and confident in her newfound skills. At a recent meeting, I heard a consultant say, "When I started with Mary Kay, I was terrified to speak in front of 6 people." That was me, by the way. I didn't see how I was going to make it through my first skincare class. Also me. That same woman was making this remark on stage, smiling and radiant before 8,000 people. I think it's obvious that someone did a very good job of telling her, "You can do it." If you ever come to visit Mary Kay headquarters in Dallas, you may see someone wearing a diamond pin in the shape of a bumblebee. Be assured that she is one of the top performers. Within our organization, the bumblebee has become the ultimate symbol of accomplishment. We selected it because of what the bumblebee represents for all women. You see, years ago, aerodynamic engineers studied this creature and decided that it should simply not be able to fly. Its wings are too weak and its body too heavy for flight. Everything seems to tell the bumblebee, "You'll never get off the ground." But I like to think that maybe, just maybe, our divine creator whispered, "You can do it." And so it did.